Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to EntreSession 2024. I'm Kania, your business advisor from Creative Partnership and Digital Business Innovation Study Program, and I'll be your moderator for Session 1. I'm excited to introduce you our guest today. We have Associate Professor Dr. Marcus C. Rodrigues from the University of Newcastle, Australia. So, Dr. Marcus, welcome. It is great to have you here. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone on Zoom for this short meeting. All good? Yep. Perfect.
Okay. So to kick off the things, can you share a little more about your journey? What inspired you to dive into the world of finance and entrepreneurship?
Wow, that's a great loaded question, but I'll try to make it as short and sweet as I can. Now, friends on Zoom, if you can't hear me or see me, please let us know. Right, my friends. Many years ago, when I was young, like most of you on the Zoom, I had a dream. Okay, and my dream was to make a lot of money. Right? If I were to ask a question to friends on Zoom, how many of you don't like money? We all love money, right? So I wanted to make money out of money. But when I was very young, I wasn't rich. My parents were not rich. I didn't have money. So when I started working, the first aim I had for myself was to make money. So every $1 I earned, I said to myself, I will save 1%. So 1% of $1 is 1 cent. So my reason why I put 1%, not 20% or 30%, because when you want to start and if you want to be successful, you always start small. All right, so that's one of my tips for you, to start small if you want to be successful. So I started with 1% and I said to myself, 1% until I reach a total saving of $5,000. Right? So that 1 cent every dollar, it took me a long time to reach that $5,000. But once I reached that $5,000, I got motivated. So if I can save 1% and hit $5,000, I said to myself, now I'm going to start saving more than 1%. All right, so that's the way I started off. I started by saving small, sacrificially, setting aside money. Because if I were to ask you, what's a saving? Savings are nothing but postponed consumption. I sacrifice today so that I can save, and in the future, I can live the life I want to live. All right, so that's how I started, and that's my secret to being happy. Everyone asks me how I'm happy today. You know, when you sacrifice, you save, you invest well, and I'll tell you some investment tips later on, you can be successful and you can also be happy.
Okay, it's very great sharing from your journey. But I kind of curious about investing. So, if you
Investing.
have any recommendation for our student, what kind of things that we should invest?
Good, good, good. Again, a very good question. I can write a book on that question. It's a very loaded question again, right? Now, as I said a little while ago, investment is a sacrifice I make today to save my money, right? So I can save my money in the bank. Okay? So if I save my money in the bank, I get a return. But the return from the bank is very little, almost nothing. Right? But the bank is a safe place. So my first investment tip is, if you keep your money in the bank, it is safe. But the return is very low. So if you want low return, low risk, of course keep your money in the bank. But if you were like me when I was young, love to take risk, I said to myself, I will take a risk. Right? Again, what is risk, my friends? Right? I'm sure people on Zoom, if you can answer me, I'll be grateful. But if you can't, it's okay. What is risk? Right? Now, to help you all remember risk, I would like to give you an analogy. Right? That's the first tip for investment. Okay? So the first tip for investment is understand what is risk. To understand risk, I would like you to go to the traffic light. You know the traffic light? You go to the traffic light, the red man is there, red light, right? Red light. Red light tells us what?
Stop.
Stop, correct. If I want to walk, when the red light is there, I am taking a risk,
Press, yes.
right?
Sure.
But most of us do that. Red man is there, we run across the road because we're willing to take a risk. So in investments, We are willing to take a risk because we know the outcome. Red man is there. I walk. I take a risk. I know there's only two outcomes. What are the two outcomes? Number one, I'm lucky. I'm alive. Number two, I'm not lucky and I'm dead. Right? So risk, red man, I take the risk because I know the outcome. Similarly, in investments, I can keep my money in the bank, almost no risk. But when I take my money out of the bank and I invest it in stocks and shares and all the other ways in which I can invest, I'm taking a risk. But I know the return. The return is either high or zero. Right? So red man, risk. Clear? Now what about the green man? The green light is there. Can I walk?
Sure.
Of course. Am I taking a risk?
No.
She faltered. Very good. You faltered because you may say yes, no risk, but actually there is risk. The green man is there. I'm walking across the road, no risk. Right? But my lovely friend Dhoni is there in his car and he says, there's Marcus, I don't like him. Accelerate. He hits me and I'm dead. So even when the green man is there, we think there's no risk, but there's a little bit of risk. Now that's called uncertainty in investments. Right? So 2 tips investment. Number 1, look at the red man every time you go to the traffic signal. That's the first lesson, right? You know the outcome, you take the risk. Green man is there. It doesn't mean there is no risk. There's also uncertainty. So those are the 2 important things I want to remember. And the last thing I want to remember is don't follow what other people are doing. Right? Be different, be individualistic, right? Because in stocks and shares and investments, just like the green man and the red man, the traffic light, green and red light, there's also fear and greed. G-R-E-E-D, greed. F-E-A-R, fear. Fear means what? Everyone is selling, I will sell. No. Greed, what is greed? Everyone is buying, I will buy, right? Always remember, do your own homework. Do your own investment analysis, then invest, you can beat the markets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your very good analogy. I think for my generation today, maybe it's called as FOMO or fear of missing out. So when see people buy many, so they want to buy and afraid that they will lose something like that.
That's
Yeah, it's very great.
Don't follow the crowd.
Don't follow the crowd. Okay, don't follow the crowd, guys. Be different, be unique. Yes. Okay, so another question from me is, can you share about top 3 financial pitfalls, yes, that new entrepreneurs should avoid?
Okay, thank you. Again, another lovely question, great question. I've given you 1 tip already as a new entrepreneur. Do not jump into something because other people are doing it. Okay, do your own homework. Always rely on yourself. Okay, now textbooks. You can read a textbook, right? But what the textbook tells you may not be what really happens in the real world, right? You do your homework. So the first tip is to do your homework as an entrepreneur before you make an investment. The second tip I like to give you is try to do something that is not what everyone is doing. Or you take something that everyone is doing and you make a difference, right? Change it a little bit. For example, everyone is, say, for example, building this building. Every architect can do this building, right? But the same building can be built keeping in mind something new, right? Maybe the environment, right? So as an entrepreneur, do your homework. Number 2, try to do something innovative, something different. Now again, to find that difference, to find that niche area, you must do your homework, right? Again, don't follow what other people are doing. Try to have your own uniqueness about it. Okay, the first one is do your homework. Second one is be unique. And the third one is, right, don't fall asleep, right? When I make investments, I don't fall asleep. I'm vigilant all the time, right? All the time watching, looking at the market, looking at your competitors and constantly trying to outbeat them. That will not happen if you lay back and say, all right, I've done my job, I'll take a relax, I'll relax for a while. As an entrepreneur, as a young entrepreneur, I'm sure most of you online will be young, you have to be vigilant all the time. Okay, so the first one is do your homework. Second one is do something different. And the third one is be vigilant. Don't fall asleep.
Thank you for a very amazing yeah, suggestion for you from you. Okay. I think I have another question.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
about the second. Can you repeat more for the second suggestion?
First one is do your homework.
The homework.
Second one is be innovative. Right?
Okay.
Watch, read what other people are doing and do
Okay.
something different. It may be something very similar, but something that has your unique mark, right? For example, let me give you a little example to help you out. I teach accounting and finance, right? When I teach accounting and finance, everyone can teach accounting and finance. You can teach accounting and finance, right? Demas can teach accounting and finance, but I try to make it different, Demas, right? I try to leave a mark on it. So, for example, I teach accounting and say accounting is all about Alice in Wonderland, ALICE. So, I can tell you more if you want to, but do something slightly different that people will get attracted to you, motivated towards you. So, that's the second one. So, be innovative.
Okay. So be unique.
Unique,
Okay.
yes, be
So-
unique.
Okay. I think maybe some of people afraid of being unique because it is might be uncomfortable to be different with
Yep.
among others, right?
Yep.
So how can you suggest someone to be unique that maybe it could be more valuable than the others?
Excellent, excellent question, because I wanted to tell you something and I didn't tell you. I'm going to tell you now. To be unique, to be brave enough to do something innovative, to be brave enough to do something different from the crowd, I will give you 3 words to remember. Okay? Now, I'm quite old, by the way. I look young, but I'm not young. Right? So, from a very young age, I kept in my head 3 words, and I would love every one of you to remember those 3 words. Okay? The first word is I can. Okay? I can do it. You constantly say to yourself, I can. For example, today we're doing this lovely interview. My friend will be a bit nervous, right? Yeah.
Yes, I
So
am.
when you're nervous, what do you say? I can do it, right? You keep saying that to yourself, I can, I can, I can. Okay, so the first word is I can. The second word builds on that word is I will. Okay? I can do this business. I can do this new way of manufacturing this water bottle, right? Something new, I can. And I will do it. So I can do it, I will do it. And the third one to be successful is, and to not to be afraid of others, I can, I will, I must. I have no choice, right? I must means I have no choice. I must do it because my success is in my hands, right? No one else can do it for me. I can do it for myself, right? So if you want to do something different, like you said, that you're sort of afraid of it, keep saying this to yourself. I can, I will, I must. I can do it, I will do it, I must do it. No choice. My friends, try it, my friends. Right? You have an assignment coming up in exam or whatever, and you say, I can, I will, I must, and you can be a success. Right? To be successful and to not be afraid of doing things different, as young people always want to follow the crowd, I can, I will,
I must.
I must. Well done. Excellent.
Okay, it's a very good mantra for me today. It's like I
Motto.
can, I will, I must.
Yes,
Okay,
can, I
so
will, I
remember
must.
that, guys. Okay, so we have a lot of question here. Can you show it, operators? Can you zoom in? Okay, so we can see the first question that came from our students. The first question is, what are the most critical financial metrics for startups to monitor?
It all depends when you talk about metrics and startups. It depends on what area you are in terms of your startup, right? If you're a startup, let me give you an example, okay? You want to make investments in stocks and shares, right? Then, of course, your metrics will be the KPIs on the stock market. Right, so it all depends on, if you can make the question a little bit more specific, I can give you some tips, but it all depends on the KPIs, the key performing indicators that are related to your area of startup, right? Maybe it's manufacturing, then maybe it's the ISO standards you have to follow, or maybe it is a startup in an area that is very ESG focused, for economic, social, and governance, or CSR, corporate social responsibility. It all depends on where your startup is landed. I'm sure I'm not answering your question very clearly because the question is very general, But if you're specific in a particular startup industry, then I can give you a specific answer.
Okay, so it might be from me. My question is, I also teach performance analytics, so I have to create the KPI for students, entrepreneurs, and the startup.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it might be different from other industry, right?
Exactly,
So if it's like F&B, fashion,
Yep.
manufacturer, might be have different KPI, right?
mm,
So I think most of our students here are an entrepreneur in F&B industry.
Oh, okay.
Can you give example?
F&B?
Maybe? Yes, for food and
Good.
beverages. What is
Very
that? Yeah,
good.
metrics. Yes.
Yep. So what you could do is I can give you a common metrics that you can use for F&B, and that's the balance scorecard. I hope you've heard about the balance scorecard. Balance scorecard is a good metrics that you can use. If you want, I can quickly explain it to you. It's like this chair I'm sitting on. This chair I'm sitting on is very stable because it has 4 legs, right? So the balance scorecard also has 4 legs, 4 metrics or 4 KPIs. The first one, of course, is your profit. That's the profit pillar in the KPI. So you build your KPIs in terms of profit. But to get a profit, you need the second pillar, the second leg, which is your customers. So you build your KPIs around your customers, customer satisfaction. So if you want to make profit, you look at the customer. But for the customer to be happy, you need a third leg, which is your continuous processes, your internal business processes, build KPIs in terms of quality. So you got the profit pillar supported by the customers. The customers won't be happy if your internal business processes don't have good quality measures in place. And final pillar, the fourth pillar, or the metrics, the KPI that you build into your system, whether it's a startup or an ongoing business, is continuously innovation, learning and growth. Okay, so this balance scorecard, if you haven't heard about it, just Google it, read about it. It's not that old. It's a very good technique that any organization could use as a good metric for building KPIs into any of your operations.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so balance scorecard, is it possible to be implemented in manufacture and then many
Anyone,
industries?
any
Anyone.
industry.
Oh, so it's very general and
Very general.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. You can tailor it to your industry. And if any one of these lovely young people are doing a startup and you want some help, let me know. Happy to help you.
Thank you so much for your over of the helping our students here.
Absolutely. Yes.
So another question from our student is, how can entrepreneurs effectively forecast cash flow for their business?
Oh, how can you effectively forecast cash flows? Very tricky question, my friends. Cash flow, as I always say, my friends, cash is king. Cash is king. And that question about forecasting your cash flow is crucial to any business. If you don't monitor your cash flow, if you don't forecast your cash flow and make the predictions both effective and efficient, you will collapse. All right? So to answer your question, to make your cash flow forecast effective, start from scratch. Okay? Now, most people will build their cash flow based on what they knew yesterday. All right? I will not do that. I will start from today. I will make my forecasts for tomorrow, next week, next month, based on today's assumption. All right? So, building an effective forecast is always looking into the future. But when you look into the future, you also make it effective by putting into your forecast that element I told you earlier, the element of red man, green man, red light, green light, right? Red light, risk. Green light, no risk? No, there is risk. So in your forecast, you also build in the possibility of things going wrong. Okay, then your forecast in terms of your cash is effective. As I said earlier, I can give you a quick example. One of my clients many years ago had a cash flow, a cash budget, prepared every week on a weekly basis. Fantastic, isn't it? If you forecast your cash on a weekly basis, fantastic. But you know what I did? I checked the cash flow forecast and I looked at the bank statement. And guess what? In the bank statement, they had a bank overdraft every month. So your theory, your effective forecast is just paper. But the actual is your bank financial statement, or the bank statement. So they need to correlate. So to build an effective forecast of your cash is to keep in mind, look at the cash flow from today into the future.
Okay, that's a very good suggestion for monitoring our cash flow. But I kind of curious about the because the market is really uncertain.
Yep.
Yeah. So how can we forecast? I mean, like to prevent for a mistaken forecast, and then using not a suitable strategy for our businesses.
Yep.
So can you have any suggestion to
Very
preventing from
simple.
any loss and something like that?
Yeah, I have a very simple strategy. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Okay, always diversify your cash forecasts from in terms of your business. Where is it coming from, right? Maybe your customer base. Diversify your customer base. It could be domestic customers, it could be online customers, it could be international customers, global customers. So always do not put all your eggs in one basket. That's a simple answer.
Okay, so it is like if from our operation maybe like you have to be omni-channel maybe like that, yeah. So you can have offline store and then you have online store and then you have something like that.
Correct.
So it is not to prevent from the activity that our business are doing right there.
Correct, because you said uncertainty, and uncertainty is always there in the world, right? Who knew there's wars going to happen suddenly,
Yes,
right?
sure.
Who knew the pandemic will happen suddenly? So things will come upon us suddenly. So we must always plan for uncertainty, and that's why don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
I
yeah.
can, I will, I must.
I can, I will, I must. Very good. Okay, so the another question that came from our friends, yeah. What are common funding options available for new ventures, and how they differ?
Okay, another interesting question. I can give you a little example. I had two of my students about a year ago come to me and say, we want to start a business. I said, good. And I asked them the same question. What is your source of finance? And their source of finance was their little savings that they had. All right. So your common funding, the best source comes from yourself first. Right. Once you have a little bit of your funding from your own pocket, you also get that commitment. Okay. So the common funding options are, of course, the first one is yourself. The second one may be your parents. Right. Mom and dad could give you a little bit. Right. So in other words, when you're starting up a new business, always start from someone within. Right? Your own money is always, it gives you a motivation. My own money, I don't want to take too much of risk. I don't want to lose my own money, right? So once you put your own money in there, there's two boys who came to me a year ago about a startup. They wanted to start a coffee shop, actually, all right? And they wanted to buy over a coffee shop. This was the source of finance. They had some of their own savings, and their mom and dad was willing to give them a little bit of money. Right? So with that limited amount of resources, sources of finance, we looked at the company they were going to buy over, the coffee shop. I told them a few tips, and guess what? Today they're making 10 times the money they invested. Right? So the common source of finance starts from within. It's called the pecking order. Pecking order is to eat from your own hand first. Okay? And then you get committed in your business.
Okay, thank you for your answers. Another questions. Okay, so how should an entrepreneur evaluate the trade-offs between debt and equity financing?
Okay, that's a good textbook question. Debt equity financing is mainly for large organizations. It may not be from an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur basically starts from his own money, right? His own equity finance. If you want to take a debt, maybe a bank will give you a debt, but again, you have to be careful. They will not give you a debt until you have a track record. So the trade-off between debt and finance, again, from a very general perspective, having a little bit of your own equity is always the best. If you focus too much on debt, borrowing money to start your business, it could be a bit risky. You're using someone else's money, okay? Now, that's the negative side of my answer. The positive side of my answer is leveraging of other people's money. Let me give you an example, right? You have a business, you did your business plan, and you realize if you start this business, you will get a return of, let's say, 8%, right? 8%. So your business is going to give you a return of 8%. The bank lending rate may be, let's say, 5%, right? Then you can borrow at 5%. Do your homework, put in your business, you earn 8%. So in other words, you're using the bank's money to make money for yourself. So you earn 8, you pay 5 to the bank, and you put 3 into your own pocket. Right? So there are two ways of answering that question. There's the positive side and there's the negative side. So my honest, humble answer will be use a little bit of both. Okay? Have your own equity so you get a commitment in the business. And if you need borrow some money. But when you borrow, be careful to do your homework. Borrow at the cheapest possible interest rate.
Okay, so from it's like we have to choose from the very lowest interest rate, right? Yeah, of course. Okay, so another question. Okay, what role does financial modeling play in business planning? Okay,
All right.
a very basic question.
Good question again. Modeling is always good, right? It's called scenario analysis, right? When you're planning a business, plan different scenarios, right? One scenario could be the best possible scenario. Another scenario could be the worst possible scenario, right? So building models, now there are different models you can build, but the basic model will be the good, the bad, and the ugly. The very good return, the bad return, and the mediocre return.
Okay, so I hope it answered your
Yeah,
questions, guys. Okay, another. Okay, can you explain the concept of valuation? Oh, valuation and its importance for startups. Valuations.
Valuation normally comes not for startups, but for an organization that is willing to take over another organization. You know, organization A wants to take over organization B, then you do a valuation of B, right? I'm not very sure about your question when it relates to a startup. So unless it's a startup that is going to buy over another existing organization, then you don't call it a startup. Yeah, a startup is something that comes from, something new, a new idea, a new prototype that you're going to, market. So I'm not very clear about what you mean by valuation there.
Okay, so maybe my students not really
that's
like
alright.
have a difference meaning from the startup and then yeah.
Do a little bit of homework. Read.
Okay.
Don't use ChatGPT.
Sure. Okay. So about rate, yeah. Can you give us another maybe like your top 5 maybe recommendations book for financing so that our students can have more knowledge about the financial things
Sorry,
like that.
can you repeat the question?
Um,
5 books?
Yes, 5 books recommendation
Books.
from you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Books. Oh my! You come to my office. There are hundreds of books.
Oh.
But my suggestion in today's world, books are good. They give you the fundamental understanding. But beyond that, you should read. Okay, read success stories, right? Send me a little email. I can give you a number of articles, journal articles, research articles, newspaper articles, which will give you much more information that is contemporary, relevant, rather than a textbook. Textbooks are good. I'm not saying anything wrong about them, but textbooks are textbooks. They aren't giving you the current happening in the market. So the current happening in the market, read maybe Harvard Business Review, right, or Financial Review, or any of the latest journals that are available, right? Happy to give you a long list of journals if you want to in terms of investments. Also, my friends, there are I don't know about Indonesia, but the stock exchange, your stock exchange,
stock exchange.
will run short-term courses on investments. Yeah, and they'll be really up-to-date professionals who will give you some tips. So read books, nothing wrong, but try to get information from the other areas. Yeah, Google the stock market. They will definitely have short little courses on investments, contemporary modeling, contemporary issues that will give you up-to-date knowledge if you want to be a good startup or an entrepreneur.
Okay, so that's all I think.
Oops.
Thank
We
you,
ran out of
Dr.
time.
Yeah, Dr. Marcus. So, can you give us your LinkedIn or something like this so our student can catch up you?
Sure, you can
Okay.
you can find me on LinkedIn, my friends. LinkedIn, just put Marcus Rodrigues. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find me on Facebook. Even in Google, you just put Marcus Rodrigues, University of Newcastle. You can find me. Happy to help anyone round the clock, 24/7, because I love young people and I want you all to be successful because I'm old. My generation is finished. You're the next generation, so you need to always be successful. And to be successful, you say to yourself 3 words. What are the 3 words, my friends? I can.
I will.
Will.
I
I
must.
must.
Okay.
Well done. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marcus. It is nice to have you here. Okay, see
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Okay, guys, it is our end of session, so we will continue to session 2 and session 3 right away. So bye-bye. Tes.
Cek, ada. Steven.
Okay, welcome back, guys. So I have another MC in here.
Yes, hi everyone.
Oke, Steven, Indonesia atau gimana nih?
Pakai Indonesia aja deh,
Indonesia
Bu.
aja. Atau Sunda?
Sunda.
Oh, Sunda biasa, nyari Sunda?
Nggak bisa, Bu. Indonesia aja mungkin ya, Bu
Indonesia
ya.
aja ya. Oke, Steven, excited gak sih sama EntreSession hari ini?
Excited banget sih, Bu. Soalnya kan hari ini kita bakal ada gestar-gestar nanti, Bu ya. Bakal ada speakernya soal F&B, ada fashion juga nanti di sesi 1 dan sesi 2 ya, Bu ya.
Betul sekali. Tadi kita ketemu sama international lecturer dari
Yes.
Australia. Nanti kita punya